In all of Gu Filebang, there are 9 major factions. One of these is comprised solely of the world's beggars, their origins shrouded in uncertainty. They are one of the most powerful groups in the martial arts world. Thanks to their free spirits and unassuming appearances, they're exceptional at gathering information and selling it to gather riches. Despite their skills and importance, though, they're looked down upon for making their living from begging. Among this sect, the highest single-ranked authority is known as the Dragon Head Chief. Phew, that's the exposition done. Time for the story. As the scene opens to the present day, we see a dude struggling with early balding, beating the absolute stuffing out of another man on the ground. As he continues to beat him, the man tells the beggar to die and tells him to eat his spit mixed with the dirt if he's really that hungry. With tears streaming down his eyes, the young man does as he's told, fearing for his life. Dude, gross. I mean, I get it, but that's disgusting. That night, some disciples of the Changsha sect of Gansu province in Lanzhou are speaking about their day, when the bald dude from before starts bragging about beating up some beggar. Right as he's boasting about his less than honorable acts, the sect's front doors are blown off their hinges, waking up everyone inside. As all the disciples rush outside to face this sudden attack, they're shocked and appalled to find a single beggar with his head on the ground, begging for change. Absolutely infuriated by this intrusion and disrespect, the disciples angrily ask if he has any idea what this place is. This prompts the beggar to stand up, a vicious smirk growing on his face, as he tells them he's fully aware and insults them to their faces. Before the sect disciples can get over their shock, the beggar points towards the entrance, where the bullied beggar from before is standing, and asks who beat him up. Faced with silence from the disciples, the beggar demands that whoever did it step forward, unless they want to die. As the other disciples stand in utter confusion about what the hell is going on, the fatherless bully from before recognizes the kid he beat up and starts cackling with laughter over his condition. In response, the cocky beggar has the kid point out who beat him and proceeds to roast the crap out of his hairline, calling him Strawberry Head. Infuriated, Strawberry Head seethes in place as the beggar starts talking about how dogs need to be beaten for discipline, and he doesn't care, even if he kills everyone here. Suddenly, the disciples spot the strange staff in the beggar's hand and start cowering in fear, as that's supposed to be for 5th-ranked masters at minimum. Strawberry Head's too ticked off to care, though, and he leads a charge on the beggar. As you'd expect, that doesn't go too well, as said beggar swings the staff a single time and sends them all flying. At this point, the disciples are totally cowed, as the beggar smirks and says he missed them. Before anyone can make another move, the beggar appears in front of Strawberry Head, punches him across the courtyard, and starts lecturing the disciples for acting so high and mighty. From there, he takes his time beating the snot out of Strawberry Head until he's begging for mercy. As he beats on the bully, the beggar lectures them on how the beggar sect could easily be the best in the martial arts world, unlike what they think of them. After all, while they look down on the beggars for their appearance and lifestyle, they fail to see their eyes. The eyes of people who have nothing to lose. Those terrifying creatures are the ones who make up the true beggars sect. Right as it seems like every disciple in sight is going to be beaten into the ground, a gong sounds out and a senior disciple steps forward while spitting venomous words. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't last long either, instantly getting turned into a finger glove by the beggar. Right at that moment, the sect leader finally shows up and puts a stop to the whole debacle. This is Zhang Wan Qiwan, and he tells the beggar that he'll punish his sect's disciples according to their rules. When he tells the boy to cease his actions and stick to their principles, though, that pisses him off something fierce. Without a second thought, he goes on a tirade about how he has no right to speak of principles when his disciple beat an innocent boy like a dog and made him eat dirt and spit. Just from the aura of the beggar alone, one Qiwan can tell that he's not someone to be trifled with. Once he admits that he's the sect leader, the beggar pulls forward the bullied kid from earlier and tells one Qiwan to apologize on behalf of his subordinates. Sheesh, talk about not giving a crap. Even as all his disciples seethe with outrage and yell for him to not debase himself, one Qiwan bows his head to the beggars and asks their forgiveness for the actions of his disciples. When his disciples begin to speak up against this yet again, one Qiwan has had enough and bellows at them with rage, telling them that they are in the wrong here. Satisfied with what he's seeing, the beggar turns to leave alongside his junior. Right as he's stepping out, though, one Qiwan requests to know his name as well as his master's, since the martial arts skills he displayed were utterly extraordinary. Call him Grandpa Glaze for how hard he's riding that meat right now. The beggar only turns his head and tells him his name is Hwa Long. As for his master, he is Hong Chil-pei-yong. Just like that, with the utterance of a single name, Won Ki-wong's expression twists into one of utter shock and disbelief. Once he's done collecting himself, he warns Hwa Long about how today's events will bring repercussions upon his sect once word gets out. Rather than being concerned, though, Hwa Long just tells the old man that it's not a problem, since he's planning to leave his sect anyway. Accepting the boy's reasoning as sound, the old man bids him farewell and promises to remember his name. After Hwa Long leaves, Won Ki-won thinks back to a memory from his childhood, associated with Hong Chil-pei-yong, a memory of a bandit attack on his home village, a memory of an old man who wiped out the bandits and saved his life, a memory of a man with unparalleled power. That man is Hong Chil-pei-yong. Turning to his still whining disciples, Won Ki-won tells them to consider themselves lucky that things ended where they did, because if that boy was truly a disciple of Hong Chil-pei-yong, none of them would have survived. As Hwa Long gives his junior a piggyback ride back home, he gives the kid a good earful for letting himself get hurt so badly and voices his regret over not killing everyone back there. Once he's cooled down a bit, the kid thanks him, before asking how he has the chief's scarf. To this, Hwa Long tells him that he obviously stole it. Ah, of course. Theft. Who wouldn't think of that? As he thinks about how he stole the thing, Hwa Long starts chuckling at the idea of all the sect elders losing their crap. His junior tries to apologize, thinking this is all because of him, but Hwa Long just tells him to forget about it. In that moment, though, something else is weighing on the boy's mind as well. And so, he asks Hwa Long if he was serious about leaving the sect earlier, as well as if it's because of his master. Hwa Long just goes silent upon hearing this, his mind turning to memories of the past, 15 years back to be exact. Back then, he remembers being an exceptionally handsome young boy, even though he was a beggar. Because of this, he alone would receive food and gifts from townsfolk, while other young beggars were hung out to dry. Because of this, through no fault of his own, Hwa Long was beaten the crap out of by those jealous children. Unable to defend himself, this is when he met him, the man who would change his life for good. Seemingly just another beggar, the older man praises Hwa Long for his ability to take so much punishment without even crying out. From there, the two began speaking, with Hwa Long showing an unusual amount of sympathy, crying for the old beggar's lack of a 10th finger. Seeing the heartful emotions of the boy and the strange birthmark on his face, the old man made a choice. He asked if Hwa Long had any kind of guardian, shelter, or food, and when answered negatively, he told the boy that he had something to show him. Whoa, I know he's chill with that weird dog. As the two travel together, moving from city to forest, the old man keeps humming the same song about sweets. It's right as they're traveling through the woods that the old man asks Hwa Long if he'd like to be, well, Hwa Long, seeing as he didn't have a name. As their journey continues, the young Hwa Long starts calling the old man grandpa and even hides behind him when a wild bear appears. The old man, however, is completely nonplussed. After telling Hwa Long to stay back, he takes his stance and stares the bear right down the face. Then, in a flash of movement almost too fast to see, the old man makes use of Chuoi Palsumbo, Leak Advance Water, to confuse the bear, draw it into range, and smack it. Well, he would smack it, but he gets a little too distracted by Hwa Long cheering him on, and gets smacked instead. Seeing him fall to the ground, a worried Hwa Long rushes to his grandpa and asks if he's okay. Upon hearing that the old man is weakened because he hasn't eaten, Hwa Long pulls out his only egg and tells him to eat it. The old man rises to eat it, injuring the bear behind him. Unfortunately for the animal, there's nothing it can do, as the old man's sheer aura petrifies it and forces it to flee. After boasting about scaring the bear and warning Hwa Long to avoid killing needlessly, the old man hears a voice calling out to him, referring to him as chief. As a group of people rush towards the old man, the one in front has the biggest smile. This is Num Chiyan, the southern branch chief of the beggars sect. During the exchange of pleasantries between Num Chiyan's group and the old man, Hwa Long learns that he is the retired dragon head chief of the 9 beggars. Hwa Long fondly remembers the next part of this memory, the moment when his grandpa turned to him with a smile and extended his hand, asking if Hwa Long wanted to stay with him. And so, Hwa Long became a member of the beggars sect, where all was peaceful and tranquil for him. That too, however, did not last long. Before he knew it, He Hualong was thrown into the main sect by his grandpa, and that's when it all went wrong. Yeesh. Talk about ominous. Not too long after his initial arrival, the old man walks with He Hualong, asking him about how he's fitting in. He Hualong just tells him that everything's going great, not thinking about it for a second. Together, the two walk to a group of dog cages, where the old man claims he must repay He Hualong for that egg from so many days past. He shoves the young man into one of the cages himself, after which he closes said cage and tosses He Hualong a single wooden branch to defend himself with. Gee, thanks, Gramps. That's really helpful. As the dogs in the cage close in on He Hualong, he refuses to die and overcomes his own pain and fear, slowly but surely learning unimaginable martial arts. Over the years, He Hualong would come to train under and gain more respect than ever for his grandpa, who is known as the Nine-Fingered God Beggar, a supreme master, and a highly powerful martial artist altogether. With thousands of unique techniques and mastering his martial arts, He Hualong became incredibly strong. But even so, he could never understand why exactly his grandpa was teaching him these things. Could it really all be just because of that one egg he offered way back when? Either way, he endures all the training, while being happy that he's no longer alone. One particular day, the old man tells He Hualong that they're going to spar. Once they get into position, He Hualong makes the first move without wasting a second, knowing that he can't afford to hold anything back. His grandpa is still a master, however, and he shows as much by effortlessly dodging his attacks, even from behind. As the battle continues and the master keeps humiliating his student, he eventually steps in and elbows He Hualong with enough force to blow the young buck away. Determined to get some kind of victory, no matter how small, He Hualong grabs a sturdy-looking stick lying near him and rushes in, using it as a substitute for his staff technique. Thanks to that move, he's able to dodge his master's next attack and get a decent hit in, but that's still nowhere near enough to win him the spar. As he watches his master in the air above him, He Hualong smiles and says he's done. Unfortunately for him, the geezer isn't. With no warning, Gramps proceeds to literally breathe fire down at his student like a flaming tornado, because that's just the thing they can do now, I guess. Not long after their spar, He Hualong awakens from his knocked-out state and finds himself sitting beside his master at the foot of a waterfall. As they sit in peace, the old master speaks of how much corruption has spread in his sect, which used to be built on loyalty and chivalry. He speaks of how he'd love to remake the beggars sect altogether if he were still a young man. At the moment, the meaning of his words is lost on He Hualong. Seeing this, the old man tells him about the beggars sect which he dreams of. As he fondly reminisces over this memory, He Hualong feels a pang of loss, knowing that they'll never share such a moment again. He even thinks back to when the old man showed He Hualong the final technique he had yet to learn, the ultimate art of their sect, begging him. Well, it is their whole thing. Despite his disciples' clear lack of interest in the act, his grandpa reminds him that no matter their status as beggars, they'll always have an intangible strength and richness of heart that no martial artist can possess. Because of this, they should always look to grow from within and have a habit of introspection. From there, He Hualong's memories move forward to a night in the not-too-distant past, right when some beggar sect disciples are about to give him a piece of their minds for sleeping in some tree. A messenger arrives in a panic. At the top of his lungs, this man screams that their former sect leader, Han Chil-Pei-Yang, has passed away during his eastern journey. The entire sect is instantly thrown into shock, disbelief, and outrage, but none are more furious than He Hualong himself. As the messenger explains how the master fell to some bandits while protecting villagers, He Hualong leaps down from his tree branch and angrily demands to know how the hell their powerful leader could fall to some bandits. Unable to make sense of what he's hearing, He Hualong latches onto what the messenger says next about a suspicious figure near the scene of Chil-Pyung's death. Coming back to the present, the junior he's carrying asks He Hualong if he's leaving the sect because of their master, though he refuses to say anything at first. It's not long before He Hualong breaks down into tears, even as he insists that this is his own choice. After dropping his junior off near the sect, He Hualong takes off to an unknown destination, humming the same tune his master once used to. As he moves along, he comes to a decision. From here on out, he will follow in the footsteps of his master, no matter what may come his way. Meanwhile, a meeting is underway in the Shanxi province beggar sect's Gu Hall. Of the three figures present, the only one with a cool head is Master Num Qian, the very same man He Hualong first saw showing his master respect. As he listens quietly, the other two, Enforcer Sak Hyul Gudeyum and Elder Sak Hyul Bong Jonhak, ran on and on about how He Walong must be punished for his actions against another sect if they are to avoid inter-sect relations souring. They keep going on about how his actions are against the rules of the sects. That is until Num Cheon finally speaks up and tells them there's no need for such action. He will speak to the affected sect himself. When they continue their protests, Num Cheon has only one question. How do they feel about disciples of the beggars sect being assaulted by other sects in broad daylight? Unable to answer the question without revealing their own anger at the situation, the two shut up. Now that he finally has the floor, Num Cheon tells them that while they're right about the sect rules, their sect has its pride too. Besides, is it not also a rule to keep your loyalty to your people? After defending He Walong's actions, Num Cheon proceeds to ask them if they should just lie down and take their beatings instead. Unk is spitting. Despite the fact that they don't exactly disagree though, the other two bring up another issue. The recent occurrence of beggar sect disciples being driven out of Zhangyuan altogether towards the North Sea and/or southern barbarian territories. If He Walong's actions become known, regardless of right or wrong, their sect will only become even more suspicious, and the headquarters will have yet another excuse to exile beggar sect disciples. Upon being reminded of this, Num Cheon takes his seat and agrees to investigate the matter more. Right as that decision is made and things are calming down, the three are informed that Punge, the boy who was beaten in the incident, is here. Give my guy a break, man. Stepping inside the meeting hall, Punge reports to the higher-ups about how He Walong has left the sect as of today. Before they can jump to conclusions, he assures them it is his own choice and shares his parting words, that he will revolutionize the beggars sect and make an era where none will look down upon them. Instantly, the other two start laughing at the ridiculously lofty claims, but they quiet down upon seeing Num Cheon quiet. Funnily enough, it turns out that despite being higher-ups in a literal spy organization, those idiots have no clue that He Walong is actually a highly skilled martial artist trained by their former dragon head himself. Meanwhile, in the Hunan province of Changsha, He Walong is hard at work. Well, sort of. He's actually just begging his heart out on a bridge, but hey, you've got to do what you've got to do. Unfortunately for He Walong, even after all his years in the beggars sect, he sucks at the act itself. Not only is he infuriated at having to beg, he's made angrier by the fact he can't get anyone to actually pay him jack squat. Put that together with his immense hunger and well, it's a recipe for disaster. Eventually, he decides the problem is just that he's in a bad spot for begging. Yeah, pal, totally. Before he can move to a new spot though, he sees a couple consisting of a skinny dude and an ox of a woman coming his way. As the couple are passing by his spot, He Walong's hand shoots out like a serpent and he grabs onto the man's ankle, refusing to let go until he spares some change. Hold on, isn't that just extortion? When He Walong proceeds to put on the most terrifying begging face you'll see in your whole life, the man tries to get away from him while the woman starts kicking the crap out of He Walong to protect her man. Get yourself a girl like that, folks. Despite the couple's already negative reaction to him, He Walong grabs onto the man yet again when they're about to leave, hoping that he'll get some change this time. Alas, that isn't to be, and our hero takes off to find a better spot. On his hunt for the perfect begging spot, He Walong suddenly smells a delicious aroma coming from nearby and is reminded once again of just how hungry he is. At this point, he's tempted to head to the mountains and straight up eat grass. Luckily, it doesn't quite come to that, as he remembers what the couple from earlier were discussing. Not too far from here, there should be a lake where he can catch some fish and make a stew. His mind made up, He Walong suddenly uses a martial arts technique to launch himself into the air, leaping over tree after tree to reach this lake, before others can catch all the fish. And so, our hero ends up at Dongting Lake, which is every bit as boring as any other lake in the world. Right as he arrives there, he makes eye contact with the same couple from earlier, earning him a nasty look from the woman and avoidance from the still frightened man. Deciding to stay away to avoid making a scene, He Walong grabs a bamboo stick and flings the tip towards the water. Because that's how fishing works apparently. Who needs a line, Amirit? Yeah. Turns out this isn't a super effective method, and the past 15 minutes of catching nothing are proof enough for an annoyed He Walong to get even more frustrated. Right as he's considering just blowing all the water out of this damn lake altogether, a new voice speaks up from behind, complimenting his form as a martial artist. This overly relaxed stranger goes on to tell He Walong that he'll never catch anything with that temper. However, He Long takes offense at being lectured, and in a fit of childish anger, he throws a single finger blast at the new man to knock the leaf out of his mouth. Immediately, he follows that up with a mad kick at some rocks, amusing the stranger, despite He Long's clear rage. Not long after that whole scene, He Long's back in the town, searching for any way to get some food in his starving belly. In his current state, he's already regretting leaving the sect to begin with. A couple of moments later, just as he's about to fully give up, He Long finally sees it. The perfect begging spot. Instantly, he rushes right to the spot at the junction of two roads and gets on his hands and knees, ready to beg his greedy little heart out. Right as he begins, though, a new presence suddenly appears right before He Long, and it is not a friendly one. Upon feeling the person before him and hearing their words, He Long is instantly reminded of the pain and suffering he went through as a child, bringing tears of rage to his eyes. As for the men before him, they're the local beggars here, mad at him for supposedly stealing their spot. Curious as to what this dude's problem is, He Long asks as much. In the seconds it takes to ask his question, he also examines the new guy's appearance and determines from the rings hanging at his waist that he's from the beggars sect. Suddenly, the man goes red with anger and starts slurring at He Long about how he's using the wrong begging technique for the area and has to pay the territory fees first anyway. Mulling over the man's words, He Long recalls that the beggars do in fact have predetermined begging zones that are agreed on, but it's surprising that this place already has an owner. Putting that aside too, He Long can't help but feel their sudden appearance is at least a little bit suspicious. He Long decides to quit the act and stop being so submissive, which prompts the lead fat ass to charge him with the intent to harm. Unfortunately for him, He Long is far superior in all things combat, so the fat beggar just ends up with a bashed in and reddened face from where the younger man meets him. As if that weren't already enough though, He Long goes on to beat the crap out of the guy, even turning on his companions. Once the beatdown's done, He Long calls out to the beggars in the area and has them bow down before him, grows too cold with it. With the losers on their knees apologizing for their actions, He Long is ready to get some real answers. For starters, did they approach him on purpose? And why is that? They seem far too aggressive over a simple territory fee after all. In response, the beggars spill everything. They admit to targeting him on purpose and mention some registration process, which He Long asks for more details on. When the beggar he beat up hesitates, He Long smashes his head yet again, quelling any reluctance that might have kept his mouth shut. The chubby dude explains that Hunan's beggar sect takes in freelance beggars and orphans to teach them begging, and then assigns them specific posts. Once they've done that, they register as members of the sect, which is called franchising. Hang on. This is just a pyramid scheme. I'm calling it now. The beggar further explains that the freelance beggars register under the members who recruited them, and then hand 30% of their earnings to said members. I called it. Upon hearing this explanation, He Long appears to be absolutely furious that the young ones just hand over the money they begged for. Seeing this, the beggar tries to explain that it's more of a mutually beneficial survival strategy, but He Long isn't about to be fooled with some smooth words. He smacks the hell out of the beggar's skull once again and tells him to continue the explanation. The beggar tells him about how it's not just the freelancers who give up 30%, but everyone who is a member above them. That way, money flows all the way from the bottom to the top, without said top having to do anything. Though He Long is rather bothered by the way this whole setup of theirs works, he can't help but admire just how ingenious it is. Intrigued, he asks them just who came up with the idea. The beggars tell him that it's none other than the branch leader of Hunan's Jangsa, John Mo-san. Don't look at me, I've got no idea either. As soon as he hears the top dog's name, He Long orders the beggars to take him to this leader. When they show hesitation yet again, He Long just channels some murderous intent, forcing them to comply. Even despite this, the chubby beggar is internally plotting how to get He Long defeated by their leader. For now, he decides to stall by requesting that they let him meet his quota before they head out. Amused by his request, He Long tells the guy to go ahead and show them his Hunan begging skills. Spurred on by the fake enthusiasm of He Long, the chubby beggar strikes a JoJo pose and states that he'll show him a whole different class of begging. Yikes. This is just sad. As they move towards a populated area, the beggar explains that the method He Long was using was the northern intimidation style. Here in the South, though, they use the refined style. Now, Tubby claims that it's a matter of using your brain, but really it's just straight-up blackmail and/or extortion. As you're about to see, Tubby explains that they have to first pick out their target. For that, they don't choose those who are wearing expensive clothes, because those are just pretending to be rich. No, the ideal targets are those with expensive accessories. Not long after saying this, he spots a woman with a high-value trinket on her waist, walking along with her young son. Upon seeing this, Tubby smiles and tells Hee-Wa-Long that the child is their target. With the target secured in his sight, Tubby grabs a fistful of dirt off the ground and prepares to pull off a heist and a half on a child. Yeah, this is just sad. After using a stepping technique to sneak up on the kid, Tubby reveals that his whole plan is to smear the kid's butt with dirt and start calling out that he pooped himself. All this so that his mother will give them some money to keep their mouths shut and get lost. Yup, literal blackmail. After Tubby returns to Hee-Wa-Long, he asks the beggar if he just threatened that kid and his mom. In response, Tubby just tells him that he's nothing but a lowly beggar, so there's no way that's possible. Smack him again, please. Hee-Wa-Long raises his fist to smack the beggar, causing him to back up in fear and spill the beans. Apparently, that kid's mom is a big deal from a noble family, and that kind of folk can't stand seeing their kids being embarrassed. Plus, the amount they weaseled out of her was just small enough that they don't have to worry about facing retribution later either. It's the perfect scam, other than being totally pathetic. Sure. Seeing that Hee-Wa-Long is uncomfortable with this method, Tubby tells him of the second way to make money here. He just has to pretend to be blind or have some other disability. Is there no end to this dude's scumbaggery? Thinking over the options he's been provided, Hee-Wa-Long decides to drop them both and make his own way. With a grin on his face, he tells the beggars he has an idea, but he'll need their help to set it up. A little while later, we see Hee-Wa-Long sitting by a main road with a game of sorts set up before him. Anyone who bets a Niyong, the currency, can try to hammer a nail into the wood. If they succeed in 3 tries, they get double their money back, and if they don't, well, they don't. Sure enough, the potential prize draws in a huge crowd pretty fast, and before the beggars know it, Hee-Wa-Long's stall has made about a dozen Niyong. Seeing this, Tubby finally comes around and decides to get to work drawing an even bigger crowd. Between the potential prize and the challenge to people's egos, their stall is explosively successful. Even when a customer attacks Hee-Wa-Long in anger, the former beggar sect member weaves around all his attacks and pushes him away. By the time the day ends, the group has made dozens of Niyong, more than they ever could have imagined on their own. That night, Hee-Wa-Long takes the beggars to a nice inn where he treats them all to an absolute feast for their efforts today. During said feast, Tubby tries to cozy up to Hee-Wa-Long, but the young man is having none of that. He reminds Tubby to just remember what he's supposed to do and lead him to their leader, that Mo-sun or whatever person. That, of course, does not go over well with old Tubby, who starts plotting in his head. When they leave the restaurant and Hee-Wa-Long smacks Tubby's head to tell him to lead the way, the old dude is coping to hell and back in his own mind. When Hee-Wa-Long meets his branch leader, surely he'll be nothing but dead meat. Okay, so, who's gonna tell him? And so, by nightfall, Tubby and his merry band of beggars have brought Hee-Wa-Long to their leader's district. As they pass some beggars, Tubby makes a hand gesture to one of them to have the bells sounded, so they may introduce the big man himself. Upon reaching the man's location, Tubby starts crashing out at Hee-Wa-Long for not sucking up to their leader, the supposedly great and incredible ghost saint, Jiang Mosa, branch leader of Hunan. Being who he is though, Hee-Wa-Long could care less about making an impression. Instead, he lets loose his killing intent right at Jiang and proceeds to tell the man that he'll take him. Wait, what? I didn't know this was a BL. As everyone around them reacts with utter outrage at Hee-Wa-Long's statement, the former beggar focuses on Mo-sun's physical state, utterly shocked by what he's seeing. This man is so severely malnourished that he looks like a strong gust of wind could knock him over. He's a branch leader, and of the 5th rank no less. Taking advantage of the lull in the conversation, Tubby steps forward and introduces Hee-Wa-Long as some thug who invaded his territory and beat him up for no reason. Upon hearing this and realizing what Tubby is up to, Hee-Wa-Long doesn't even get mad. Instead, he just looks down on Tubby for eating on his tab and calling him brother with such traitorous intentions. After chewing him out for that, he turns his sights on Jiang Mosa and comments on how this fraud looks even younger than Hee-Wa-Long himself. It's at this point that both Zhang and He Hualong finally realize where they've seen each other before. Zhang is the guy from the lake who commented on He Hualong's form. Of course, He Hualong refers to him as that arrogant bastard, which causes the Hunan beggars to scream for his blood. Throughout all this, Zhang keeps a calm and collected expression. Looking down with his eyes masked by his hat, he asks He Hualong to identify himself, and if he's from the beggar sect. To the latter question, He Hualong answers with a simple no, before then asking one of his own. Is Zhang the one who came up with the pyramid scheme system? From there, the pair get into a short debate about beggars and their roles, leading to He Hualong reciting the 3 begging principles. That's where Zhang catches him, making him slip up and reveal that he is, in fact, or at least was, from the beggar's sect. While Zhang actually seems to be enjoying the barb exchange between them, good old Tubby decides he wants some attention too, and starts screaming at He Hualong for mocking their leader. Calling out to Zhang, Tubby demands that they execute He Hualong via Tegu, which is an execution method where the offender is beaten to death by a group of people wielding clubs. Upon hearing this, He Hualong is on the verge of losing his own cool. Turning to the others, he tells them that he truly isn't from the beggar's sect, but more importantly, they themselves are breaking the sect's rules by preying on the weak via extortion. Between that and his frustration with Tubby, He Hualong challenges them all to come at him and see if the Hunan branch survives the night. Chills. Literal chills. Luckily for pretty much all the beggars, Zhang intervenes before things escalate too much and tells He Hualong that he respects his determination and courage. For that, he will answer the man's questions. Before that, though, he asks He Hualong what he thinks of starving beggars who've gone mad with hunger, those who will do anything without caring about principles to survive. Zhang explains that they take such people who will likely get themselves killed at some point, and they teach those beggars the principles of begging so they don't harm others or themselves. Plus, they get some profit for the branch while they're at it. With He Hualong's earlier question answered, Zhang tells him to kindly leave now. However, He Hualong isn't satisfied. Looking Zhang in the eye, he tells the man that no matter what he calls it, in the end, he's still exploiting the weak. Putting that aside, though, He Hualong tells him it's time to get to the point now. Looking the branch leader dead in the eyes, He Hualong calls him by name and offers to open a new sect together. It takes a few moments for that statement to sink in for everyone, but as soon as it does, a unified shriek of confusion echoes through the night sky. Zhang Mosa is the only one to keep his composure, but he too is utterly shocked. He asks He Hualong if he even understands the meaning of opening a new sect with just the 2 of them. He Hualong, however, just says that that's more than enough for them to start out. Getting up from where he's seated, Zhang asks He Hualong what he plans to do when their new sect is interpreted as a challenge against the entire martial arts world. In response to this, He Hualong starts rolling his shoulder and asks if Zhang would like to see what he's made of. After all, he's pretty curious as to what Zhang can do as well. Unfortunately for He Hualong, Zhang has no interest in fighting, just so the other man can prove himself, and especially not after He Hualong lets loose some of his power, and Zhang senses the essence of the Hong Riyang 18 palms in it. In fact, he's so shocked upon sensing that, he only just barely manages to dodge He Hualong's first attack, and is left wondering how the hell this kid knows the martial arts of Yondu's leader. Getting his feet back under himself, Zhang berates He Hualong for his arrogance and lack of concern for the damage he causes. Getting up in his face, he asks He Hualong just why the hell he wants to open a new sect anyways. In response to Zhang's question, He Hualong tells him he wishes to create a sect that will be the wind in the sails of the beggar's sect, so that it may become a powerful force none can look down on. Angered by the insinuation, Zhang demands to know who could possibly dare to look down on a sect as enormous as the beggars. However, He Hualong needs only to remind him that regardless of their power, the attitude towards them from others has never changed. Beginning to understand He Hualong's motivation, Zhang asks why he doesn't just bring about that change from within the sect. This finally gets a negative expression from He Hualong, who admits that the existing beggar's sect will never move according to his will alone. He explains to Zhang that he just needs a co-leader to prove his new sect's strength as well as to hold him back when he has self-control issues. Taking a few moments to think, Zhang realizes that He Hualong is completely serious. As such, he gives the boy 3 conditions to fulfill. Should those be done, Zhang will join his sect. The next we see He Hualong. He's sitting by himself in the middle of a forest, resting against a tree, and pondering on something. An internal monologue reveals to us that what he's thinking of are the three conditions stated by John Mosa. First off, he has to go to the gambling den in Hunan known as Hojiak Jiwan. If he can beat a man there by the name of Chion Chosan, only then will he even bother stating the other two conditions. Kinda sounds more like demands, but alright man. Before they part ways, John informs Hiwalong that this Chion person has reached the level of sword and body as one. That being said, John turns away and tells Hiwalong that he'll handle his registration for the fight, and they go their separate ways. Back in the present, Hiwalong mentally prepares himself for what's to come. Soon after this, Hiwalong arrives at Hojiak Jiwan. Pretty much the second he gets there though, one of the guards tries to shoo him off like a common beggar. With an annoyed look on his face, Hiwalong tells the guard he's here to participate as a fighter. When asked about his sponsor, Hiwalong says Zhang's name, thinking nothing of it. However, the reaction that name gets from pretty much every person there is significant. After asking if Hiwalong is from the beggars sect, they ask him to wait a moment while they look for the name he was registered under. Shockingly enough, it turns out Zhang has left a participation fee of 250 Nian for Hiwalong, a number that absolutely floors Hiwalong as well. For whatever reason though, the organizers seem more shocked by whatever name Hiwalong has been registered under than they are by the money. Not wanting any trouble, they just lead Hiwalong to the competitor's area. Now, as with any good tournament arc, exposition time. This gambling den situated at the edge of the Hunan province is a place where many come to place bets and compete in martial arts battles. Those bets which are placed on contestants by non-competitors are referred to as Toto. Back to the good stuff. Inside the den, a smarmy-looking announcer calls out the events of the day, stating that the last one standing in today's group match will win a whopping 1,000 Miyang. Hiwalong hasn't even begun to recover from the shock of that amount when the second prize is brought out, the Goryong Divine Pill. And as if all of that wasn't already enough, whoever wins it all today also gets the chance to fight the undefeated champion, Chong Chio-san. If the competitor somehow even manages to defeat him, then the fight will award not one, but 2,000 Miyang as prize money. If it were physically possible, Hiwalong would have dollar signs flashing in his eyes by this point. As things stand, he simply smirks, prepared to win, but also disgusted by the methods these people employ. The so-called green elixir in the Goryong Divine Pill is in fact a miracle drug that explodes the consumer's internal energy and causes them to go mad. Cool. It's a Hulk pill. Up above in the stands, a spectator named Yu Bigwang, who just so happens to be a master gambler, has come to the same conclusion as Hiwalong. These people collect participation fees to trap the weak, use the prize and elixir as bait, to get them to stay in, and then put them in a life-threatening situation, where the top master finishes them off to bolster his own popularity even further. Geez, talk about a foolproof plan. However, there is one single person Big Wong can sense is different, even from up here in the stands. Indeed, it's none other than Hiwalong. As the day's participants are announced, we're just going to skim over them, because they don't matter. Creepy chick dude in purple, I can't tell which. Big muscle gorilla dude with a murder boner. Bushy brows wit merchant. And the boy himself, Nam Siak Ga. Hiwalong. I'll be real, I don't know why this is such a big deal, but it's probably safe to say Zhang played a little prank on our boy. As soon as the name is announced, practically everyone in the crowd bursts out in uproarious laughter, turning Hiwalong's already embarrassed expression into a volcanic blush. In an effort to quell this embarrassment, Hiwalong turns to the moving alcohol vendor up in the stands and demands a takju. Though everyone in earshot questions his sanity for drinking so close to the big fight, Hiwalong just demands the bottle once more, getting it this time after promising to pay 10 times its value later. So money can buy happiness, kids. Drink irresponsibly. As he grabs the bottle of takju, Hiwalong proceeds to drain the whole thing in a few gulps, instantly getting buzzed and demanding more bottles. After about his fourth or so bottle, or perhaps more, Hiwalong starts babbling incoherently, before collapsing completely at the very edge of the arena. Everyone watching is utterly flabbergasted by Hiwalong's actions, though since he's technically within bounds, no rules have been broken. With the intention of quickly dispatching an enemy, all three other participants race for Hiwalong's body. As they get closer though, they set their sights on each other instead. And so, a three-way battle begins with Hiwalong completely off the hook as he sleeps through the whole thing. As He Hualong sleeps on, the battlefield turns into an active war zone faster than you can say, "Nah, I'd win." In mere minutes, the whip user, femboy, and macho muscle man have put the work in on making each other hurt. Up in the stands, Big Wong is beginning to doubt his judgment on He Hualong. Okay, are we really not talking about that name? Big Wong. Really? Anyways, it doesn't take long for the meat-headed semi-sumo to establish his dominance on the field, and both the whip user as well as the femboy have started to tire out. At one point, the femboy launches Danny Phantom's Ghost Whale, popping everyone's ears like balloons, including the audience. For the semi-sumo, though, this is barely an inconvenience, and he shows as much by tossing his battle axes at the femboy with full force. The femboy thinks he's safe at first, after dodging the axes, but unknown to him, they can come right back like a boomerang. Something he doesn't learn until the blades are planted in his back and he's bleeding to death. Up in the stands, the crowd loses their collective crap over the bloodshed, more entertained than ever. With the battle now being between the semi-sumo and whip Gramps, things seem to be in the Grandpa's favor, since he manages to poison the meathead. Unfortunately for him, the pain and poisonous effect is only enraging the sumo wannabe and allowing him to push past his limits. Before long, he reaches the old man, and with a mighty swing of his axes, the old-timer's time runs out. The only one left standing now is none other than the meathead himself. After retrieving his axes from the bodies of his victims, he turns his sights on the still-sleeping He Hualong. Infuriated by the boy's lack of seriousness and respect, Semi-sumo charges at him, despite the old man's poison still running through his body. With only a few meters left between He Hualong and his would-be killer, he's going to have to be really fast or really lucky to survive this. And lucky it is, right as the meathead is about to reach He Hualong, the old man's poison finally catches up to him, and he freezes like someone just asked him, Spanish or English. Meanwhile, He Hualong awakens from his alcohol-induced nap, completely oblivious to everything that just happened, right in front of him. As for the crowd, despite their thirst for blood and guts, they start booing the meathead for attempting to take He Hualong out while he is drunk and asleep. With the beggar sect's former member now fully awake and the crowd's support gone, the meathead is struggling to stay on his feet. With each passing second, the poison spreads further into his system, to the point where he ends up dropping like a sack of potatoes right behind He Hualong instead of landing an actual hit. Just like that, He Hualong has won the entire group match without so much as even lifting a finger. Well, except when he drank all that booze. Everyone in the arena is watching the scene play out in utter disbelief, unable to accept what just happened. As for Big Wong, he's got a solid smirk on his face, his amusement knowing no end, thanks to Wu's luck. Down on the arena floor, He Hualong puts 2 and 2 together on his own, and upon realizing that he's won, starts calling out for Chiyan Chosan to shove his ugly mug already. The man in question simply stares down at He Hualong through his face mask, his eyes glowing red with rage at this arrogant fool. Meanwhile, all the way back at John Los's abode, Tubby races into his place with urgent news. Said news is an update on what's happened with He Hualong. Not only has he won the group match, but he is now gearing up to fight Chiyan Chosan himself, as per their agreement. Despite this, John remains confident that Chiyan is one opponent He Hualong won't be able to overcome on his own. Back at the arena, the crowd is going crazy with outrage over all their lost bets, seeing as how most people had put their money on anyone but He Hualong. Enraged by their demands for their money back, He Hualong yells right back at them, asking why the hell he should return a thing, when all he did was get drunk and pass out. That's a pretty solid point, to be fair. From his own spot, the announcer is losing his marbles as well, because of how terribly Gambling Den's move has dipped. After getting some kind of update from a messenger, the announcer decides that he will fix this situation himself, albeit at the cost of He Hualong's winnings. He declares that for this next match, the bet payout will be 10 times the usual amount. Upon hearing this, every human in sight falls victim to their inherent greed, and the mood has been saved. Now turning to He Hualong, the announcer asks him if he wishes to proceed with his match against Chiyan. However, there's a catch to that now. In order to continue with the fight, He Hualong will have to pony up another 1,000 Miyang to beat the minimum new requirement of 2,000 for fighting Chiyan. As someone who only entered in the first place because someone else covered the fee for him, He Hualong is absolutely furious over this change in rules out of nowhere. The announcer just looks down at He Hualong condescendingly and starts explaining the situation, as if he's speaking to a child, stating that he can take the risk or leave his winnings, so they can be returned to the people. Luckily for He Hualong, a third party appears on the scene just in time to bail him out. It's none other than Bei Wang himself, fully living up to his name and slapping his meat on the table for He Hualong's sake. Big Wang throws down a sack of money and declares that he'll cover the bet money for He Hualong, so all he needs to do is get out there and fight to his heart's content. With that, the matter is settled, and He Hualong thanks Big Wang with a sincere smile. When he asks what he'll do if He Hualong loses, Big Wang simply states that he never makes losing bets. Bolstered once again by this man's faith and his own calming heart, He Hualong turns to the booze boy and orders yet another bottle. All over the spectator stands, the audience breaks out into laughter, believing that he's trying to get lucky again, since he knows he can't win. He Hualong's true reasons, however, are completely different. After chugging down this final drink, he stands firmly in place and gets into position, ready to face anything. From up in the VIP box, Qian Chosong finds himself seething in anger at He Hualong's utter cockiness. In half an instant, he crosses the distance from his seat to He Hualong and unleashes an extremely charged-up punch. Despite blocking, He Hualong finds himself pushed all the way to the opposite wall of the arena by this attack. As he stands there, his opponent's strength level registering in his mind, He Hualong is fairly certain his plan will work. Qian comes dashing forward once again, launching a barrage of fists right at He Hualong as he does. He Hualong continues to tank all these attacks, somewhat impressed, but also suspicious. Compared to the reputation Qian supposedly has, this guy is way too lacking. Up in the stands, everyone is completely oblivious to He Hualong's inner monologue, and thus assumes that he's going to lose. Come on now, guys, he's got plot armor. After a few more hits, He Hualong makes his move. All of a sudden, Qian can no longer feel his hits connecting. He Hualong is deflecting every single one of them with ease, and now he activates the 18 dragons subduing palms, Li Siyap De Chun. In this stance, He Hualong is using the Drunken 8 Immortals technique. Thanks to its unpredictability and erratic movements, Qian can no longer touch He Hualong, who is in turn landing blow after blow with devastating power. As Qian goes flying across the arena with his body battered, the entire crowd finds their jaws dropping to the floor. A more drunk He Hualong than at any point so far makes his way to the fallen Qian, swaying on his feet as he does. On the way, he grabs yet another bottle of booze and starts chugging it, while the crowd starts whining about how this is just another scam. Having heard enough, He Hualong turns their way with a single, murderous look, and every last one of them shuts up. Over from where he sprawled on the ground, Qian rises up, enraged at having been tricked by He Hualong. As he screams at the beggar and receives only nonchalance in reply, Qian rises up and uses something known as Jin Qian Lock. With this, he's determined to take He Hualong down. Well, that is until the beggar once again slams him into the ground with minimal effort, treating him like a cheap punching bag. Now, the great champion lying sprawled across the ground is treated like little more than a doormat, while everyone once again loses their minds over what they believe to be impossible. Among them, only Big Wang seems happy, as he analyzes the moves He Hualong used. Down on the battlefield, He Hualong moves to remove the mask, covering this Qian's face. When Qian tries to stop him, He Hualong looks at him innocently, before doing a complete 180 and smashing him into the earth even harder than before. Now, once again, he moves to remove the mask, while saying that he needs to prove a point. This time, someone else entirely appears, determined to stop that mask from coming off. Slowly turning towards this newcomer, He Hualong's own metaphorical mask slips, and he looks at the man with a deranged smirk. Is he the one? The real Qian Chosan? What follows from there is a series of verbal exchanges between He Hualong and this new man, all boiling down to him refusing that he's the real Qian Chosan, while He Hualong insists that he is and demands a fight. When He Hualong realizes that words won't get him anywhere, he opts for a different approach. Stopping over to the fake Qian Chosan he already defeated, he grabs the man by the hair and declares that since the other contestants didn't hesitate to kill, this guy can go ahead and die as well. This is finally enough to make Qian Chosan reveal himself, his swift movement from the stands to He Hualong's position within a second, proving that he's the real deal. Now that he's been proven right, He Hualong lets go of the fake and speaks to Qian about fighting him here and now. Unfortunately, The man refuses to fight today under any circumstances and turns to leave. Right as he's walking away, though, Qian asks Long why he thinks the person he fought was a fake anyway, to which Long explains that he was told Qian Chosan is a master in the realm of unity of sword and mind. This guy didn't use his sword for a second, though, so how could he be the real Qian Chosan? After another set of verbal barbs from both sides, Qian still refuses to fight. Long can practically feel his chance to recruit Zhang slipping through his fingers, so he makes a desperate move. Leaping into the air, he flies at Qian with a drop kick meant to kill. Right at the last moment, though, several people in similar outfits to the fake Qian appear and defend him. Standing behind the shield erected by his minions, Chosan angrily stares at Long and tells him he doesn't know when to quit. Just as he's beginning to feel smug again, though, Long crashes through his minion's shield and makes full contact with Chosan via his foot. Just like that, the man is sent stumbling backward, as his glasses crack and blood flows from his nose like a waterfall. Not a single person present can comprehend what they're seeing right now, and Qian himself is perhaps the most shocked of all. He angrily asks Long how he can direct killing intent at someone who has no intention to fight, but the answer he gets is even more unhinged. Shadows overtake Long's face as he stares down like the Grim Reaper himself, stating only that this isn't even a fraction of his true killing intent. Glancing back at the fake Chosan, Long only asks where he gets off talking of martial etiquette when he lets someone else be beaten to a pulp in his place. In the blink of an eye, Long starts gathering energy for one final attack. Seeing this, Chosan's subordinates come rushing in, determined to stop Long from causing any more chaos. That, however, is the wrong thing to say, as it only triggers Long further. Standing firmly, he tells them that he'll show them true chaos. Right now, even if they all end up crippled at his hands, he won't care. Back at Zhang Mosa's abode, Tubby can be seen engaging his master in a conversation about Long. To answer Tubby's question about his chances, Zhang says there's no chance of him beating Qian Chosan. For you see, Chosan is the leader of Guoi Hondan, the direct combat group of the Gaebang leader, comprised entirely of masters of their craft. That probably doesn't mean much to any of Ya, so basically you're the ultimate Black Ops squad, who are the best at what each of them specializes in. Despite this, though, Zhang admits that he may be wrong. If Long is truly a user of the 18 dragons subduing palms, a martial art consisting of 18 techniques, it is considered the greatest external martial art in all of Gaebang. Zhang can't say for sure what he might do at the gambling den, but one thing's certain. Long is a man with the instinct of a hungry wild beast, and he's willing to do anything to achieve his goal. Zhang is sure that if that instinct could be tamed, his own dreams might be able to become reality as well. At the same time that this thought is going through Zhang's mind, Long is in the middle of doing exactly what he suspected. Using the 18 dragons subduing palms, he completely demolishes the arena, causing such incredible destruction with his blows that all of his enemies are reduced to little more than bruised piles of flesh. Big Wong can barely hold onto the ground from where he's standing and can't help but ask, what the hell exactly Long is doing? Does he plan to even sacrifice the innocents here to win some stupid battle? Long is beyond listening to any such reasoning, though, launching yet another massive beam forward without any regard for his surroundings. Qian's underlings have absolutely no idea what to do in the face of such overwhelming power, as most of them are overtaken by the blast and vaporized within moments. Afterward, as the dust settles, a more conscious and sober Long walks up to the fallen Qian Chosan, while commenting on how all that drinking made him lose control of his power. That aside, though, he now stands over Qian's bloodied body with a look of utter contempt. Standing there, he comments that for all the hype behind him, the man is actually just pathetic. Naturally, Qian starts grasping at straws to explain how this man knows the 18 dragons technique, but Long refuses every explanation he comes up with. In the end, he tells the man that he's just a local beggar with the most disgustingly smug expression anyone has ever mustered. Utterly humiliated and handed an absolute defeat, it's all Qian can do to swear that he'll be back for Long one day. And when that happens, their battle will be to the death. Has Bro not been paying attention, you'll still lose. Not wanting to deal with this crap any longer, Long turns to thank Big Wong for his investment and leaves with his share of the winnings, as he walks away from the scene of destruction without a care in the world. All the onlookers from before find themselves with completely changed opinions of the man. One after the other, all the audience members sing the praises of Hiwalong, their hearts completely won over by the man's insane power. Despite his appearance and initial attitude, Hiwalong has won over everyone and changed the whole atmosphere of this place in a single moment. His origins may be unknown, but an incredible presence, a dragon, has appeared. Hiwalong has proved his worth. He has gained a new title, the Dragon Lord of the Wild Waves. But most importantly, he has only begun his journey to becoming the greatest legend in the martial world. After the events of the gambling den, Hiwalong returns to the town, or as they call it, the Bunta managed by Zhang Mosa. As he moves further in, he's met by Tubby, who leads him to Zhang's location once again. Seems like all he's good for, be honest. The two bicker with each other over the stupidest stuff pretty much the whole way, with Hiwalong occasionally spotting something that interests him, like some beggars practicing a new form of begging. Tubby explains each of these things as they walk from that technique to the farming, animal rearing, cloth weaving, food research, and more that residents here take part in. After expressing how impressed he is with Zhang's way of running this place, Hiwalong continues to bicker with Tubby for the rest of the way, especially about the fees he collects. Upon reaching the office Zhang Mosa is working in, Hiwalong smugly steps in and declares that the first condition has been met and Qian is defeated. Rather than congratulating him or anything of the sort, Zhang tells Hiwalong to come on a walk with him, his expression practically screaming exasperation. Du's not having a fun time here. As the two walk, Zhang explains that Qian Chosan's martial arts skills are actually abysmal, so Hiwalong only won because he didn't have his sword on him. More importantly, if Hiwalong truly intends to build a new sect, what the hell was he thinking when he beat so many people bloody, destroyed the entire Hojiyak Jiwan, and put so many civilians at risk? Not to mention the terrible image he portrayed with the day drinking and callous attitude. Is that the kind of image he wants his new sect to have? Each word is like a stake in Hiwalong's heart as he realizes Zhang is actually right. Even so, he's too stubborn to just admit he's in the wrong, instead just going silent. Then, while Hiwalong plays with the local puppy, Gu, Zhang gives him an analogy about how even small dogs can become deadly if you back them into a corner too much. In the same way, he shouldn't be so keen to make enemies right now. That's pretty much lost on Hiwalong though, as he just claims he'll kill any such dog. I mean, there's Kaki and then there's this. Putting all that aside though, it is time to reveal Zhang's second condition. And so he does. Hiwalong must protect him for the next week. What from? Well, that's something he'll have to wait and see for himself. The next day, Hiwalong and Zhang head out from the Bunta on a journey of their own. Though Hiwalong asks where they're headed, Zhang refuses to answer. Eventually, when the two find themselves on a forest road, the topic of future plans in the past comes up. When a curious Zhang asks what Hiwalong's actual goal is with this new sect, the young former beggar reveals that he wishes to uncover the mystery of his master's death, and in line with his wishes, he plans to let the sects that look down on the beggars know that if they continue their abuse and discrimination, they will die. His curiosity piqued, Zhang finally asks just who Hiwalong's master is, though nothing could have prepared him for the answer. Hong Chil Pei Yang, the previous Bonju, is the master of this young man. Now that he thinks about it, everything finally fits. That night, the two are sitting by a campfire, where Hiwalong explains his meeting and time spent with his master. After analyzing everything he's heard, Zhang is absolutely certain that Chil Pei Yang didn't just pick Hiwalong at random to learn the 18 Dragons technique. More importantly though, just who in the world told Hiwalong that Banju Hong Chil Pei Yang has died? Oh crap, what? As soon as the sentence just uttered by Zhang Mosa fully registers in Hiwalong's mind, he's on his feet, his heart racing, his brain running a mile a minute, and his hopes climbing sky high. Is Zhang saying that his master is still alive? Instantly he starts begging for more details, prompting Mosa to calm him down and explain in more depth. What he is isn't anything concrete, but it's definitely something. Not long before now, he received reports of an extraordinary outside force intervening in matters of their country, from the invasions on the North Sea to the south, and the unity side of Chiang He-Siang, not to mention the war that broke out between the North Sea Blood Palace and Baekdu Mun. In each of these places, there have been reports of a single man walking amidst the blood-soaked battlefields, with unparalleled martial arts skills and a single staff that seems almost divine in nature. He sweeps through the most chaotic battlefields in an instant and leaves none of the invaders alive. Based on what his source said, the figure bore a striking resemblance to the former leader, Hong Chil-Pei-Yang. However, his face was never seen in its entirety. Yeah, He Hualong's gonna totally ignore that part, isn't he? As soon as Zhang finishes talking, He Hualong declares that that person is definitely his master and he starts walking north, determined to meet him. He at least has the decency to apologize for abandoning their second condition for now, but he promises to complete it when he gets back. That, however, is not part of Zhang's plan. Speaking directly to He Hualong, he asks what exactly the man hopes to accomplish by going to the North Sea right now. Not only is he unlikely to actually find the man, but it's also not good to act rashly in this kind of situation. After all, if this person truly is their former leader, then he's more than capable of handling himself, and they have no need to worry. Well, when you put it like that, yeah. Seeing that He Hualong has calmed down enough to sit in silence, Zhang promises to let him know as soon as he gets any news about his master. In the middle of that promise, he's interrupted by He Hualong, speaking to him respectfully for the first time since they've met, a heartfelt thank you on his tongue. Now that he knows that his master is still out there, he's more motivated than ever to do his best and make him proud. To that end, he'll help finish their second condition right now. Looking up to the stars above, He Hualong vows to not only make his master proud when they next meet, but to make the beggars sect he dreamed of into a reality. Sometime later, the pair are moving through the forest when He Hualong suddenly senses hostile forces nearby. He stops Zhang with one hand, while motioning for him to be absolutely silent. And then he calls out for whoever's hiding to show themselves. So why bother being quiet then? Suddenly, dozens upon dozens of masked individuals appear on the tree branches, lining the canopy above them. They declare that the land beyond here is the private property of Oseong Sanho, though Zhang maintains his completely nonplussed expression. He Hualong is more than ready to fight when these people threaten their lives, but right as things seem to be escalating, Zhang steps in between the two. Not only does he address the lead warrior by name, but he also speaks to him in a teasing tone, similar to that of an old friend. This man, Baek Pyodu, is utterly shocked at first. That is, until Zhang pulls out an identification plaque and Pyodu realizes who exactly he's speaking to. Without so much as a moment's pause or hesitation, every single one of the secretive soldier-like individuals leaps down to ground level and bows down before Zhang, all the while calling out that the first young master has arrived. So that's a thing, apparently. He Hualong is absolutely flabbergasted by what he's seeing and hearing, even after one of the robed and masked men explains that Zhang is the first young master of Oseong Sanho, the territory that's just up ahead, because that wasn't already obvious. As the pair are led through the forest with a full security detail now, He Hualong keeps bugging him for an explanation, but Zhang just tells him to be quiet and follow for now. Eventually, they reach the place known as Oseong Sanho, an absolutely gorgeous town, carved out in the middle of the forest. This is where the 5 greatest merchants were established, as well as being operated and managed by one of the top 10 in the world. Not only that, they also run a mercenary group known as the Black Earth Escort Bureau to protect them. This place is their home. After being led through the city, Zhang and He Hualong arrive at one particular building where a beautiful older lady stands in wait. As soon as a servant informs her of the return of the first young master, this woman drops all that she's doing and practically races outside, leaping into the arms of Zhang while calling him her son, Bak Qian. From behind, He Hualong can only watch these events play out in absolute confusion and surprise. Mother, the first young master? And who the hell is Bak Qian? The end, for now.